So here's the deal with this program. Okay. Um, the podcast is like obviously about like audio engineering.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna be like a bonus episode segment. I'm probably do it like every Friday, like once a week, but it's gonna be interview focused because my show is not.
Got you.
It's an educational show with occasional interviews, but I haven't been doing any recently, and I don't like interview episodes. Don't do as well as the regular ones.
Interesting.
So, what I want to do, inspired from my favorite comedy podcasts. This is not meant to be like a comedy podcast, but more about like. We're gonna talk about music because we all do music.
Sure. It's like,
but this is not like an educational thing. This
Cool.
is just like we're talking our shit.
Bet.
And just like having fun. That's all it is.
I'm into it.
So we can talk about whatever the fuck we want. There's like no other than that.
Nothing is off topic.
Nothing is off topic.
Cool.
Also, if you can come just a little bit
A little bit closer.
And I'll like move over a little bit more this way. Also, these candies are gonna kill me.
I know.
All right, ready? I'm recording the video. I'm recording the audio. Okay. And at the end, I'm gonna do like a proper introduction, and I'll splice it toward in the beginning.
Cool.
But I want to do the introduction. I want to like talk about whatever we're gonna talk about. And what I'm gonna do is like we're just gonna start. And what I'm going to do is, like, whenever we start to get the ball rolling, that's when I'm going to start the podcast, like, kind of fade it in. Like, do you listen to podcasts much?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so it's going to be, like, one of those.
Cool.
So, by the way, we need to take these away from... I love candy, bro.
I'm lucky that I've been recently counting my calories just to help.
Oh, you have been?
Yeah,
These are only like 100 calories.
Well, it's for 4 pieces, so I have one left before I hit one serving. I only have a couple hundred calories left.
Wait, have you been taking the half? I cut them in half.
Oh, okay. So I've had 1.5 pieces then because I had the half pieces.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
cool.
but I was like, man, for 4 pieces, that was like a lot.
This is a whole piece, right? Oh, that's not a whole piece.
It's like 2 of those, though.
This is a whole piece.
Oh, okay, cool. So I've had 3 of the half pieces. Sick. I don't feel as bad then.
Why? Oh, this one had a shit ton of acid on it. Acid flecks. The sparkles.
This is probably like perfect podcast material, us eating into microphones.
The
Everyone. Oh no, don't choke.
sour stuff got in my lungs.
But yeah, I started counting calories after this past holiday. I like got back from visiting the parents, and I tend to go a little bit harder during that time and eating more sweets and just bad foods in general. But I came back and I was like feeling super bloated, and it was the first time I was over 200 pounds in a while. So I was just like, I want to drop that extra weight. So
I feel like everybody has. Well, how tall are you? Pretty tall.
I'm 6'3", so I
200
feel like,
pounds, 6'3" is like not that crazy.
True, but it was mostly fat, not muscle. Like if I was jacked at
also
200
you're
pounds,
Asian, yeah. Asian 6'3", 200, yeah.
Right.
But dude, that's I feel like everybody has their own threshold, like how much, and this is not just like weight or exercise, but like when it comes to different things, like how messy are you willing to leave your room before it's like it's too messy, I need to clean it up.
Sure.
Like everybody has different thresholds of different things. I find that like I passed my threshold and discovered where that is with my own body, like weight recently. I went to the beach with Matt last year.
Okay.
You know Mattress?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you call him Mattress? Okay, I'm with it.
And he like we went to the gym and I was looking at him. He's a younger early mid 20s, like like good looking 6-pack kind of guy.
Yeah, he's ripped.
And for the first time, and this was before he got ripped.
Right. Oh,
like
yeah.
he's just like
no,
fit.
he was fit before, but now he's ripped. Yeah.
And then so I was like, and then I like it wasn't like the way that I looked, because you don't really look at yourself like that, but it was more like I felt my belly jiggling when I ran around on the beach.
Yep.
And like that was like, and then some sort of alarm went off in my brain. It's like, I need to do something about this. And that's kind of around the same time I started running.
Totally. And I remember seeing, I mean, your journeys with running has been kind of inspiring too, and not inspiring enough to inspire me to start running, but like definitely have thought a lot about running. But
you're inspiring, just like not enough.
But yeah, no, it was around kind of the same time I was sort of had that same realization where I was like, I've never been like, probably the best shape of my life was high school. I was rowing, and I had like.
Were you on like a row team, or you were just on a row machine? Oh, you were on a team.
Oh, I was on a team, yeah, and I was like, not to blow my.
Where did you go to school in high school? Where were you in high school?
I was in Oklahoma, so I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
They had rowing in Oklahoma.
Tulsa Rowing Club, TRC.
Really?
Yes,
was there like
sir.
a river?
You could call it that. It's the Arkansas River goes through.
It was just like a really large sewer?
Pretty much, bro. It's like, it's the type of spot where you will find like three-eyed fish and shit like that inside of it.
Oh, for real? Was it like still water, or was it flowing? Like, did you have to like row against a current?
There was a current, but it was very low. It's not like you pretty much had.
And was
to
it a big
propel
deal,
yourself.
or was it like a nerdy thing? Like row
that I rode? I
like,
don't
is
think it
rowing
was-
like a weird thing?
I never got like called a nerd for rowing. I got
So
probably
it's popular enough to not be weird.
it was like jock adjacent enough that like, and I was also the people I hung out with like couldn't have cared less
Really?
about that kind of thing.
What kind of girls were hanging out with the row club? Like girls that were really into nice backs? Just like really like
surprisingly, there were a lot of
"Ooh,
attracted girls.
Let me take
on
off
that.
your sweater. let me remove your clothing from behind.
I don't know if I ever got like girls or attention from being. I mean,
Yeah,
my wife might beg
rowing,
to differ,
yeah.
but because that was around the time I met my wife, but.
That's right. Y'all are
Yeah.
high school sweethearts.
Mhm.
I forgot about
Actually, we celebrated our 16-year. We celebrate the anniversary where we started dating more than our wedding anniversary, because like that's only been what 5-6 years. It'll be 6 years next month. But and I'm like, ironically, I think I've only been in LA or only in the same city as her on one of our actual wedding anniversaries. I'm always like on tour, on a show or something, and I think it's gonna happen again this year too, which is ironic. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I didn't get a ton of attention from rowing.
Of course not. It's
Exactly right. It's
But I mean,
literally right.
it's not weird.
It wasn't weird. No, I wasn't like made to feel other. If anything, I probably felt more like part of a tribe, a community.
Oh, that's cool.
It was like,
There's
kind
like
of
a
embraced by it.
fraternity thing going on. Like,
Yeah,
my row bros.
I think it helped that I was really good at it too.
Oh, dope.
And so like I just kind of gained a lot of respect from like the coaches and the team.
Is that like a city thing, or is like everyone in Oklahoma had a row team?
Oh,
like,
no, there was maybe 15 people on it. And this is like across like 4 different high schools. So it was like
Oh,
literally
okay.
we just, you
It's like a
found
not
out.
very popular sport.
Not
Like your
really
school
at
just
all.
happened to have it.
It wasn't even related to my school. It was like an after school activity.
You went out of your way to row,
I did.
and you liked it.
I enjoyed it. I was really good at it, and it was a really, really good all body workout. Like you have to have a really strong core. You have to use your
Of
legs a lot.
course.
You have to have really good arm strength too. And it's a lot of mental strength too.
Oh, of course.
Because you just want to give up so much, and you can't.
Like now as an adult, rowing, like if I could join a row team in high school, like, well, I mean, I'm not in high school anymore, but if I had my mind when I was in high school, I think I would have done rowing. I went to a high school in Virginia that had rowing.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait. My school didn't have rowing. It was the school next to ours.
I was gonna say it's a lot more popular on the East Coast.
Yeah, there was rowing in the school and the high school, like that was like bordering our school.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, whoa, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. And it was, man, they were intense for an after school kind of elective activity thing. Like we were, every Saturday I had to wake up at 6 a.m. and run like between 6 and 9 miles. And then we would do circuits with, kind of varying degrees of on ergs, which are the rowing machines.
Ergs?
Yeah, that's what they call
Hell
it, ERG.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And I had an erg for a minute when I was in LA, but it was just, I didn't have the room. I had to get rid of it. I didn't have the nice like Concept 2 super expensive ones. I had a really cheap foldable one that the screen pretty much broke immediately.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. But it was cool just to still have something to stay active on. But yeah, it got to this point with rowing where I kind of had to make a choice between music or rowing. And the other thing is it tears up your hands. I pretty much don't have
Wait.
any
You're
calluses anymore.
telling me that when it came down to it, rowing or music,
I mean,
that was a choice?
I mean, it was a very easy choice. It wasn't a hard decision to make, but
That was a decision?
I did have to make that choice.
One of these is going to kill me. Well, no, it won't kill you. The other one is rowing.
So good. But yeah, no, and I think the other thing that I realized too is, I mean, I obviously had been playing music for way longer. Again, it was a very easy decision to be like, well, like, because I'd only rode for like 4 years. But it was sort of this, all right, if I'm going to do this, I have to go to a school that takes rowing seriously. And I'm going from like being a top person in middle of nowhere, Tulsa, Oklahoma, to like going to Boston where it's like an elite sport. And these kids have been training for, decades or 10 years plus, and I'd be a very, very small pond. And I had that same experience as a musician going from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Boston and going to a music school there too. But I think I was able to hang because I had also been playing piano for 12, 13 years at that point by the time I went to college.
Did y'all have like field hockey in your school? Do you know what field hockey is?
I know what field hockey is. We did not have field hockey. I think the only sports we had were, we definitely had a football team at high school. My middle school was like 16 kids. We didn't have any sports. My high school had football, swimming, track.
The classics. Maybe volleyball? I don't. Men's volleyball? That's the difference.
I think it was women's volleyball.
Yeah. See, like I feel like men's volleyball is like a very California thing.
Totally, yeah.
Or like an island, warm weather kind of place thing.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. Cheerleading as well. I almost did cheerleading, bro.
Cheerleading. I could see that. I could see you as a cheerleader.
Like it's like doing backflips and
yeah. You're pretty like nimble.
Yeah. I also just like wanted to touch girls, but that's besides the point.
Sure. Just hoping they fall on you and you get to That's hilarious.
But
Just cop it
I had like one of my good friends that was a male cheerleader, and he was buff. That was the reason why I almost did it.
You have to be strong.
He was so strong. It was really intimidating.
Because you're throwing people up in the air and then catching them and making it look like you're not doing anything too. That's the hard part.
Oh, and he would like parkour, but like not on purpose. Like he'd do things just because like it was just so easy to do it. Like he'll like jump over a fence.
Just to kind of
And
show
it's
off
just
a
like,
little bit.
whoa, dude, that looks so good. Like, I'll do that again with the camera.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he was just like a really nimble boy.
I had a couple homies like that too. We all sort of skated in high school, and I was, very
Skating
obviously.
is a very interesting sport.
Yeah, exactly. I was very clearly the least talented skater of my friends, so that meant that I was sort of on duty of filming. Because I could ride and I could drop a couple stairs and like I could ollie off things, but I'm not I couldn't really do tricks or huge sets of stairs and things like that. So I would just they would go on runs and I would kind of get the footage as we're watching our skate videos and trying to imitate our heroes at that point. But yeah, skating, I wanted to be so good at skating, but it was another thing with music. It came down to a point where I remember I fell. I didn't break anything, but I fell and I kind of like fucked up my wrist at one point. Can we curse on here? Do I have to?
Oh, of course.
Okay,
dude.
sorry. I don't want to. I should ask that before.
It's all right. We won't get into it, but I don't believe in verbal censorship.
Bet. Cool. Respect.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. just scream
Yeah,
like
just swearing.
Yeah.
Just swearing. No, but
yeah, the hands thing.
yeah.
So that was another reason why I kind of stopped. And even recently, my wife, she made these skateboards. She we realized we were living at the time by this like iconic LA skate shop, and so she came in and had an idea to just buy some blank decks and literally just draw on them and paint on them.
Oh, that's cool.
Made these really, really cool. She like put she put some sealant on it so it like covers it too. So like it wouldn't just destroy it the second you start skating on it. and I was like teaching her to, just how to ride, and we were doing that for a little bit. And even then, I'm sort of just like, man, if we do this, I need to get like wrist guards. I can't be skating, because if I fall and break a wrist or something, or even sprain a wrist, I'm out of.
Oh,
my job,
that's true, because you're a keys player.
Yeah,
that's interesting. For me, I feel like I've had lots of things that I wanted to do. Like, I've always been extremely terrible at balancing between multiple things. Like, I'm the kid that wanted to do everything all at the same time.
Yeah.
And be everything everywhere all at once. Sorry.
Nice,
do everything.
Nice. I watched the director's cut of that literally last night.
Oh, for real?
Wife.
We watched the actual movie literally last night.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
we were going to watch the full movie, and then we had bought it, and we've watched it a bunch of times.
What is the director's cut?
So a director's cut is hilarious. It's literally just the whole movie, but the directors talk over it the whole time.
Oh, okay.
So they give you little insider things, or they kind of spoil things.
Did you watch it without the director's cut before?
We've watched it a bunch of times before.
Okay,
yeah. I think we saw it in theaters, actually, too.
I don't know. What do you think my reaction to that movie was? You know me enough. Like,
okay. I feel like oh man, I'm scared, because I feel like you might break my heart if you don't, in a way. But like, so I love that movie. And I think as an Asian American, as an immigrant background in any way, I think you have a different relationship to that movie than as a white person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I want to say that you enjoyed it.
Oh, dude, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, cool.
I was going to say, like, I was like crying more than I should have.
Oh, for sure. No, like, even in the director's cut, I was crying.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I could have started rowing just from my tears.
Yeah. No, legit, like, I remember seeing it, and I was telling everyone it's my new favorite movie. I remember telling my mom, I really want you to see this movie.
Oh, really?
And she saw it.
'Cause she's a bitch? Is that why?
No, my mom's awesome. And if you watch this, Mom, I love you. But no, my mom's great. But like, she came back when we asked her the next week. Me and my wife were so excited. We were like FaceTiming, and we're like, what did you think of the movie? And she's like, I just didn't really get it. It just wasn't for me. And we're just like, both of our just kind of, we sunk, and we're just like, well, that's the last movie I'm recommending to her again.
That's interesting. Is your mom the Asian one?
Yeah, she's full Chinese.
She's full Chinese.
I'm surprised she didn't at least have because she kind of had
speaks Chinese, or like doesn't speak any Chinese?
She doesn't speak Chinese.
So she's like American Chinese.
She's American, but she was born in Canada, but both of her parents were full Chinese, and she was raised as, I think, first generation.
So she was basically like the Joy.
Yeah, exactly. The Jobu Tabaki, right? But yeah, I think the sci-fi element is probably what was maybe a little bit too much for her. But I was kind of hoping from the Asian American experience side
that she was smart enough
to kind of take that message out of it.
Do more.
But she was just like, yeah, I didn't really like the hot dog fingers, and I'm just like, but more than that, like it's more than So.
I thought it was so clever.
I thought it was brilliant.
The fighting with the butt plugs was hilarious.
So good.
That if you haven't watched the movie, that sentence that just came out of my mouth is
probably wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah, it was just so funny. But I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was clever. I thought it was very creative.
Very creative. And even with the director's cut, something I learned, not to spoil a bunch of shit about the movie, but like something that they did that was very smart was, because they didn't have a massive budget, and they wanted to have fight scenes that were comparable to these major Hollywood films, they literally, instead of casting a bunch of stunt doubles and then having people, training, they literally casted stunt performers as the actors. So all the people fighting are actually stunt doubles. So they actually were doing all their own stunts that way.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
With the exception of, obviously, Michelle Yeoh and Ki Kwon Ki.
Of course.
Like, they had stunt doubles and things like that. But, yeah, like, the butt plug scene, those guys are stunt
yeah. Oh, wow. That's hilarious. And, dude, I genuinely... And I felt like... This is what I feel like made it so good, is because the first time I watched it, I feel like I gained a lot of insight. Obviously, the tears were flowing. There's something that struck a chord that resonated with my soul deeply watching it. But I also recognized when it came to the end of the movie, when the movie finished, I felt like I still didn't quite understand why it was resonating.
Yeah.
So like I could watch it probably like 2 or 3 more times to further interpret why it's resonating so much within me.
Totally.
And I feel like that's what makes like it also so special and
Totally.
rewatchable. I will also wonder if it makes it because that like the entire last like 30 minutes is just so intense.
So intense.
So intense that I feel like the impact of it wouldn't be there if I watched it again. But I don't know. You've watched it a bunch of times over? Is the impact still there?
I've watched it 3 times and then the director's cut once. And I think I get what you're saying, and I actually like that about it too. I had a similar thought the first time I watched it in theaters. Was like, my first thought was, I can't wait to watch this again, because I definitely felt like I was going to get more from it. You know, even in the crazy multiverse, metaverse scenes, like even that alone, there's stuff to take away that I'm sure, you know, we missed at some point, because there's, you know, one frame sequences of things that are flashing. And but yeah, I think I also just enjoy a good cry from a movie. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a rom-com guy in that regard. So
hell yeah, I feel like crying to me is kind of like paying back a debt. Like the way that I see it, and this is me talking here. Like I feel like at the end of all of our lives, we are slowly, as we live, we are slowly accumulating a debt of guilt. Like everything that we do, we know that we're imperfect and we continue to make mistakes and keep fucking up. And I feel like at the end of our lives, if you haven't had like a good cry, and like more importantly, like letting out the guilt, the shame, the pain, and just releasing it, letting it go through, which usually in the form of a good cry.
Totally.
Then you're going to have to pay it all at once at the end. And like, I'm not that type of person. I pay, you know, every month or whatever it is.
We pay our taxes.
I pay it slowly, bit by bit, because my dad is the type of guy where like, he never cries, never apologizes, very, very strong. I think he's had a lot of issues as well, but there's like every single time like the 4 or 5 times he's gone under for surgery and he kind of wakes up a little loopy, like he's crying, wondering if his wife has left him and his kids hate him. Like, so he knows
like subconsciously he's like,
it's there, but like when he's awake again, he doesn't like,
it's so
gone.
interesting that you, like when you said strong, right? That kind of hit me, because I was like, it's funny that it's very ironic that like that's the perception of strength, is not showing emotions, but where I think actually it's more strong. You show more strength from showing your emotions and showing your humanity in many ways. Can
I play around with this idea? I don't believe that showing your emotion is strong. I think controlling your emotions is strong.
Sure, I think strength comes from controlling your emotions.
If like for example, if you're uncontrollably scared or crying, then I think that's not strength.
I agree with that.
But if you know that this is the right time to appropriately release some stress, then I think that's a form of strength.
Totally, I agree with that, and that's probably a better way of what I was trying to say too.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. But I'm thinking like, and hear me out on this. As a parent, there's a lot that I learned from the movie. And first off, hold on. I love things like that where there's like something deeper going on. It's almost like scriptural. Like you just don't get it the first time when you read like a stupid verse. First off, you have no idea if like whoever wrote that shit, Paul, right? For example, it's like, did he really mean that at face value, or is there something deeper that we're just not getting? That we've lost in translation. I
feel like the majority of scripture like is lessons, they're parables that have a deeper meaning. Yeah. And the very like unnuanced way of looking at it is like we take this at face value and like miss the whole purpose of the
so it's like a balance there. But anyway, so I love the movie because I felt like very like scriptural in that sense, in the sense that like there's a lot more we can dive into and layers that we can continue to peel back, which is why it felt like the director and the writers like were so intelligent, like and very creatively executed something so beautiful. Anyway, but going back to the parenting thing, what I believe, like no parent knows what they're doing, right?
Sure.
Nobody knows what they're doing, and
I don't
you can
think
read
any
all the books.
adult knows what they're doing. I think as I've come into my 30s, I'm realizing that like, it's so funny when you're a kid, you think like everyone, they're an adult, they've got things figured out, right? And then you come to realize like no one knows anything. Like everyone's just trying to figure out what to do, like their next thing. It's
oh yeah, for sure.
It's kind of crazy.
It's like almost like a level of like confidence in not knowing what you're doing. Like I don't know what I'm doing confidently.
Right. Yeah, those are the people that are like succeeding in many ways. Yeah, like.
But yeah, anyway, as a parent, I definitely don't know what to do. And I recognize that like how I'm going to raise my child is the way that I'm betting my cards on the table, and I'm probably going to be wrong. I mean, but
statistically, there's got to be things you're going to be wrong about.
Of course.
Right?
So I'm like, but I am making a decision. I'm brave enough to make a decision on how and think about how I want to raise my sons. And for me, I want them to be strong and tough. And I repeat that to them. Like I make them say like, I'm strong, or I'm tsuyo in Japanese. Like, and I often tell him, and this sounds really bad, especially coming out of like the late 2010s, late 2020s, like early 2020s, like, I tell him, boys don't cry. You don't cry. Boys don't cry. And I do it on purpose because, and it's like knowing that that's going to like, obviously men need to show their emotions. I cry a lot.
Sure.
But
have they seen you cry? Have you cried in front of them before?
Yeah. And more like they've also seen me apologize to them multiple times,
which is huge.
So I don't think what I'm not trying to teach them is that boys don't cry like as a gender thing.
Sure.
But it's like you don't get what you want by crying.
Right.
Like there's as a man, like I believe like there's been a lot of like psychological studies that show that like for example, the reason why men don't go to therapy the same way as much as women do is because men care more about being respected than being loved. So like men hate being pitied. They just feel like what they want is to get control of their life again. That's why like men love like solving problems and personal development because it feels like they're back in control, and that relieves depression more than anything else. So it's like when I teach them not to cry, the point is not to not cry, but the point is to like, you don't get what you want from whining.
Right.
You don't get what you want just because you cry. And so, for example, if he wanted something and he didn't get it and he cried, then what I do, like, or like I gave him part of it, like a little bowl of cereal, but he wanted more, so he starts crying. What I do is take away that first bowl of cereal. It's like, you're not getting it now at all. And then if he asks me 30 minutes later and apologizes and like asks me without crying, then I'll probably give it back to him. But like for these guys especially, they're kind of also learning to use it as a form of manipulation. Like it's not.
I was gonna say it's part of the age too.
It's not sadness; it's manipulation.
Right, like kids, early, children, like they realize that they can evoke a response from their parents by crying. And even as babies, I think they realize that too, right? Like you start to see, if I cry, they're going to come in and they're going to take care of me and all of that. So I feel like it is a learned behavior. And I love that because I don't think a lot of parents, and I'm speaking as a non-parent who like has no experience raising children too. So my word means pretty much nothing in that arena. But I just from what I've seen, I think a lot of parents are kind of pushovers in that regard, at least from what I've seen.
Also, dude, I remember being like, I was, what is this, 4 or 5 years ago? I was a Webelos leader in Cub Scouts. And I remember like this 11-year-old punk ass kid. I could say so many other worse things, but we'll keep it at that. He was a total crybaby.
Yeah.
And what if he even started to lose at like some sort of sport that we did, or like dodgeball or something, and he got out or something, he'd cry and would like basically like society, and I'm saying society, but it was like really the 7 other people, and including the boys, what they did is like they all like pitied him.
Yeah.
And so like they'd like let him win. And it's like, and the reason that bugs me the most is like society is the biggest bitch. Like, if you did not learn how to control your emotions or be strong in the sense that we were talking about before, like, you're going to be a fucking loser. Like, society is just not going to... There's very significantly fewer people are going to want to be your friends.
True.
And that's going to suck worse because there's no, like, actual feedback.
And they'll never have learned that lesson. So when that's happening, they're like, what's happening? Like, why is it's...
Yeah. There's no feedback.
Right.
There's no, like, immediate feedback.
And especially if you're not, like, introspective enough to sort of analyze, which a lot of men honestly are. A lot of people aren't. I don't think to, like... And I include myself in that. I think I, have a lot of work to do in that field as well. But I also... really overanalyze a lot of situations, a lot of conversations sometimes, and I'm just like, okay, what could I have done or said differently that would have resulted in a different
I've done that. I've stayed up so many nights doing that. I try not to do that now. Like,
I try not to. It used to be an obsessive thing, and I'm better at catching myself now, because I think that there's a lot of good to... I think that there's equally, like, every like L, for lack of a better word, that you take honestly probably has more of a learning lesson from it than the W's that we take. And
oh, for sure.
And I really try to dissect that when I'm hurt or when I've lost a gig or when I didn't get a gig or, you know, I'm bringing it back to music or whatever. If I get in a fight with someone I love, I really try to kind of analyze and be like, put it on me, even if it was maybe I provoked or if, you know, they did something or if they were out of line. I always try to be like, what did I do in this situation, even if I wasn't ultimately to blame, but what can I do in the future to kind of grow from that?
Yeah.
And that's like going to what your point about, it's like, I feel bad for people that kind of had that sort of kid gloves kind of thing and weren't able to learn like a proper lesson about about how to work properly to get things rather than just like crying and taking pity.
So let me bring up a scenario that came up today, actually. Then let's talk about it because I wanted to discover and learn about if I did the right thing or if not. And more importantly, I don't care, but I want to like see if there's something that we can learn from this.
Sure.
That has exactly to do with this. For example, there's no feedback from society. For example, if you're being like a crybaby, sore loser, nobody's going to call you out.
Right.
Because people are like honest, but they're not jerks. People don't inherently like being a jerk.
Unless you're on the internet.
Yeah, whatever, right? Like you're like on Reddit as under an anonymous, you know, username. But
Right.
Other than that, it's society doesn't really teach in person when it's like real. Like I don't know. But for me, what happened today, I've been trying to be a lot more honest with myself, letting people understand me at face value. Like, I hate it when people are trying to dig deep into my words and trying to like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, I hate when people do that because I definitely don't mean it like that. I'm trying not to listen to people like that as well. Like just try to listen to people for face value and try not to get offended or anything because they probably didn't mean it personally.
Sure.
Right. But I've also been trying to be a lot more honest. So for example, today, it's stupid that it bugged me. I think that's like step one there. And I'm going to tell you the story, but something good happened and basically a gift to 3 of my friends. And I put it in a group chat. It's like, hey, this awesome thing is happening. 2 of them said, thank you. 1 of them didn't. And I said, hey man, I'm still waiting for that thank you, like in public into that group chat. And I know that like it shouldn't bug me, but the fact that like...
It would have bugged me too. I'm just going to say that, but I don't know if I would have said anything.
Because for me, what would have happened, and the reason why I said it out loud, and it's beyond this conversation, it's been like the last year or so.
Sure.
I don't let those thoughts just kind of slide by because what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk shit about them behind their back.
Right. And I
so
think
if I
we've
just
talked
tell them
about
in
this
person,
before.
yeah.
If you just confront it head on, it's not going to lead to any feelings of ill will about them, which will lead to you talking shit about someone that you say you love, kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I get that. And I don't think what you did was wrong in any way, especially if it allowed you to sort of have that clear, kind of clear presence of mind about like, all right, I can go forward and like I said my piece about it, how I'm feeling, and I don't have to feel like this deadbeat isn't, you know, responding to isn't grateful, right? Because that's almost how I would take it in that point. It's like, oh, they're not grateful, and not factoring in. Well, how long did you wait before you sent that?
Oh no, they had sent. All of them in their first message was awesome, thank you, except for this guy who had sent like 3 messages and never said thank you.
Oh, so they continued on the convo.
He took the gift and then just like didn't.
Okay, well then I maybe might walk back what I said, but I don't know if I would have done it in the chat.
So that's the thing is like here's the deal. I didn't want to be petty and I didn't want to make a scene out of it.
Sure.
So if I like did what would have been a smarter managerial thing, like 1v1, be like, hey dude, I'm looking for like a thank you at the very least, like as a form of respect.
Right.
But here's the thing. What bugs me is that kid never learned that saying thank you for something that quite honestly, it was an awesome gift. It was basically a bunch of free plugins.
Sick.
Free plugins at hundreds of dollars worth of value. Yeah, it just the fact that thank you, and after I call him out, he still didn't do it, and that makes sense because now he can't save face, like now, but like the fact that wasn't the first thing on his mind, I'm not gonna say it was his parents. It's probably him and his mindset and the way that he's thinking is probably some sort of our relationship. I'm not gonna create an internal story that's not true, a fictitious story. But the point is, like, the fact that that's not front of his mind, something's up, and it bugs me. And I'm not trying to teach him a lesson, but I am not going to let him trample on me.
Yeah, it also felt like you're kind of trying to teach a lesson,
definitely was trying to teach him a lesson. I'm recognizing
but
that
I
right now.
respect the, like, not trying to trample on me. I do respect that a lot. I don't think you did the wrong thing by any means.
It's just a different thing.
And it also, it depends too, like you mentioned.
I definitely was trying to teach him a lesson. In retrospect, I definitely was trying to teach him a lesson.
If you also have if you're in a position of power over this person, which I'm assuming you kind of are, that also throws a different kind of dynamic into there, where I would have maybe approached it. If it was like peers, like if it was you and I didn't say, first of all, I think, I'm guessing this person is not Asian.
Oh, he is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that aside,
and we're friends.
Okay, cool, but you still also are in a position of boss or manager where you have some over. Yeah, so that adds an extra layer of complexity to the situation. I think a little bit.
So the point is though, like, something in there. I'm trying to weave together the thread between these thoughts and ideas. This is what I do a lot. Like, I splatter a bunch of ideas and try to find the silver lining between all, not the silver lining, but the thread that connects all the logic between all of them. The point is, one, society sucks and he's not going to learn that.
Right.
And another point is, like,
it's
I'm going to be
not your
honest.
job to teach him that. Ironically,
that's true. It's not my job, but also
relinquishing that control.
So I feel like I told him to teach him, but not because I felt the responsibility to teach him, but more so because I'm going to be working with him in the future.
Yeah, it's not.
Like, this is not something we're going to do.
I get it. It's not to teach him this is how you need to act to other people, but if we're going to have a working relationship, this is the respect that I deserve. And
it's just a word. It's literally two words.
And I think in that regard, you fully did the right thing. And the only difference I might have done is maybe texted him or had an in-person conversation after the fact.
But it wasn't that big of a deal.
I don't think it is.
The big thing is, like, I really didn't want it to escalate into a big deal.
Right.
And so now this is me just overthinking this live, live on air, but
waxing poetic about a small thing.
Yeah. But it was just like, yeah, it was just a little bit weird. I'm bugged. I think the thing that bugs me about this, like, conversation was that the fact that it bugs me.
Yeah, right.
Like, I wish it didn't bug me that much. I wish I didn't notice.
I wish you could just let it slide.
I wish I didn't notice. Yeah. But no, I guess but that's something I've been doing.
I relate a lot to that too. I've had honestly, I've had friendships that have kind of ended because of that, not feeling like that mutual respect is there. Literally, like, simple things like, going out of my way to meet them because they forgot their key, to let them into the apartment and they didn't even say thank you, kind of a thing. Or like, I'm helping them, I'm waking up several hours earlier than I normally would to help them, pack up their life and move, and not even a single thank you. And it was an accumulation of those kinds of things where I was like, oh, okay, like, I need to learn when someone shows you who they are, you got to believe them, kind of a thing. I was sort of naively just expecting if I kept showing up and doing things, I would get the respect that I kind of wanted. But at a certain point, and I don't think it was a disrespect thing in retrospect.
Yeah, no, it's just a bad personality.
Yeah, right.
It's a really terrible character. That's all it is.
Just bad character, and maybe a little bit of obliviousness too. Maybe a little bit of a narcissism.
The lack of gratitude doesn't come from really high self-esteem.
Yeah.
And really, like, you know what I'm saying? A lack of gratitude doesn't come from good places.
True. Yeah.
So maybe I'm just upset that people are so fucking depressed and sad,
Yeah, I mean, that bums me out too. I think about that. I mean, I can't think about it too much because it kind of bums me out and depresses me too. But like, and then the other thing is that we have no control over it. Getting back to what you're saying, if there's any true thing that I've learned in my 33 years on this planet, is the only thing I have, and I've been in a committed relationship with my partner for 16 years. The only thing I have control over is how I react to something, my emotions. I have no control over how she's going to react to a situation. I have no control. I've learned this the hard way many times. I have no control over how she'll respond to me, even if I want to hear it a certain way to me, and how selfish or narcissistic that is of me to think like, oh, she should change the way she speaks to me so that I can, I can feel better about whatever message is being expressed or whatever. I used to get a lot into that early on, even because, we've been together since high school, where I was like, could you just say it like this? It would feel better to me. And it's like, man, I'm a dick. Like, I'm really selfish, like, to think about that.
I don't think that's selfish. I think that's a strong word.
I think...
Especially it's because this is like your wife, where it's like you're invested in the long-term relationship.
Right. But I think it is it's like what you're saying, though. I was taking the words on face value, and English wasn't her first language. And I was treating her as like, oh, you're saying things wrong, basically, or you're saying that's not making sense to me, and not factoring in that there was a little bit of a language barrier, or that she says things in a different way. And I think as I've been learning Vietnamese, and it's been interesting, and I think I'm learning about my wife in many ways, because just the sentence structure is very telling, because like I'll proofread, copy, she'll type things out, and I'll proofread on emails and things like that. I'm just like, this is a weird sentence format. Like the sentence, you've got run-on sentences, and then as I'm like learning Vietnamese, I'm like, oh yeah, they don't have punctuation, and they flip things, and like they say a statement and then like a yes or no after. I'm just like, oh, this makes a lot of sense of how like we communicate. But it's been a really kind of cool learning experience for me to be like, oh, actually, I was just being, I'm at fault.
That's interesting. I wonder how much of my terrible writing skills comes from my Japanese language, because I feel like the same way, like I can easily throw it on Japanese. Because Japanese, you can like flip the words backwards. The punctuation isn't the same. There's some of them are really similar. But yeah, like I've always kind of blamed it as a kid. It's like, oh, it's because Japanese was my first language that like I can't articulate my thoughts. But the reason why I've loved doing the podcast is because it's forced me to articulate myself better, and more importantly, be comfortable with how I'm inarticulate.
Sure.
Is that the right word? Where I lack.
Yeah.
Like in communication skills. Because like, for example, before I would have been frustrated. I remember in high school, I would have been frustrated with the idea that I'm the type of person that likes to think with multiple random ideas and then try to weave them together. Right. And the fact that I was able to articulate that that's how I think and you understand is like a significant improvement of where I was emotionally like 10 years ago, when I was like really frustrated that people just didn't get me.
Right.
And so also like the whole I don't listen to my own podcast because I don't want to like stay up way too late at night thinking about the stupid shit I said. And
then getting in your head about, I got to edit this. Or whatever. Yeah. No, I think that would make me go crazy if I regularly recorded my voice and tried to listen back to it.
Oh yeah, it can.
Not in a vocalist way. Obviously, you have to get used to hearing your voice if you're a singer.
Like in an intellectual way. Like, do I sound dumb?
yeah. Because inevitably you will, right? And
like,
it's just like part of life.
I feel like I've also like accepted that I am a dummy, which is like it's really weird, but like. I hope that this doesn't reveal anything terrible about myself, but a part of me knows that I'm smart, but if I'm smart, that makes me dumb because I'm unable to relate to people like the average person,
sure.
Right?
Or you're just so smart that you're like way on a plane higher than the average person.
Yeah, like I'm thinking 3 chess moves ahead instead of the 1 or 2,
right.
Whatever. So I'm talking 3 steps ahead, but anyway. Or the other thing is like, I'm so dumb that like, it's okay to think I'm smart because I'm so dumb.
Right. Because you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So,
it's like,
right,
whatever.
Why not?
It's probably good for the confidence.
Blissfully ignorant. Bro, I think there is something to that. I think if you, not the more you know, obviously, like, because I also think like there is something to be confidence through having knowledge too. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a big fan of like, over preparing in order to feel prepared so that I can feel confident. And I'm obviously talking about music. And so I'll do more work than is often necessary just so that when I show up, I don't have to worry about the act of playing music. I can worry about the other, honestly, really 90% of the gig, which is a lot of it is the interpersonal shit.
I need this 2 DI boxes. Make sure it's stereo.
Sure. I mean, outside of the technical stuff, it's also the interpersonal stuff and the politics. And,
I see.
Yeah, because I mean, man,
you try to deal with politics like beforehand. How do you? Is that kind of what I understood? Like you try to as much as you can.
Within a musical camp, you mean?
Yeah.
I think, so to an
Because you were
extent,
talking
yeah.
about being prepared, and then you said the politics of, like,
I mean,
the
like being
classic,
in the
like,
room,
business
being in the
politics,
room. Yeah. I mean, sure. Business is taken care of to an extent before.
Like, you
even
know,
I
you're
show
good.
up.
You know
Right.
that you're like not the pity invite.
Exactly. And I know that I'm not, I know the basics are covered, right? The scheduling, if things are backlined, you know, the rate, all of that's taken care of before. You know, I kind of have
The rate, that's super important.
Yeah.
That's so
super important. Yeah. I mean, and it's like, I just saw a meme earlier tonight where it was, someone was like, oh, hey, I have a gig for you this Friday. And it's like me waiting to see the rest of this message before I give a response, kind of a thing. Cause it's like, yeah, I need to know, I'm not against playing for free if it's the right situation. But a lot of the time you're paying me to travel, right? That's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's a
I'd
good
be
point.
making music at home regardless, you know? But you're paying me to bring my gear, and along with that are the decades
At
of
least gear
experience.
rental and gas.
Right. At the very least, that's sort of what it's
And then
covering.
extra for the courtesy of you valuing my time.
Right. And then the actual, if I'm working with someone who actually pays my actual rate, then they're factoring in the 2 decade plus of experience that I have.
But at the very least, like a courtesy.
Right.
You're my friend. I'm willing to do this for free, but because you offered for free, I'm going to pay you at least gas, a meal.
Right.
Rent, like,
Yeah, or hit me back with studio time, or we'll trade services, kind of a thing, and I love doing that. But yeah, very rarely do I have, especially in certain situations, like where I'll get hired and we'll have that conversation. We'll know I'm being taken care of to a certain extent, but I very often haven't ever been in the same room with the other people I'm playing with, or even the artist. So that's the politics I'm talking about. Is like the interpersonal stuff. It's not necessarily politics. Sometimes it is. And I think it's humbling to always kind of remember, like, to watch what I say. And because as a hired gun, like I'm replaceable. Even if I am the best addition to this setting, there's 1,000 other keyboardists in this city alone who could do what I do. Probably 1,000. I wouldn't go higher than that. Because like there are tons of musicians in the city, but I feel like the ones who are doing it at a high level, it's actually a very small community.
So a couple thoughts that I have is, one, I also like to do things for free and like support friends or whatever.
Totally.
But that being said, you're probably feeling this too. You probably feel this more and more. I feel like it's less worth hiring me for free now from like the artist side. Like an artist, probably it's less worth hiring me for free, even if I agree to it, than it was like 10 years ago when I was like hungry.
You were hungrier, right? And you had more of you didn't have a reputation.
Yeah. Like I'd probably do a good job, a great job even.
But you're not going to spend 4 hours when you could easily do it in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're not going to go above and beyond and do the extra things that they're not asking for.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's going to be delivered late and you're going to be on my time. Yep. You're going to owe me a favor.
It's going to be minimal revisions, if any, type thing. Yeah. I very much so relate to that.
So it's just not worth it to hire me for free anymore from their side of stuff.
Right.
Or at least it shouldn't be. But that being said, like I still like to offer from time to time.
Totally.
So I think we're on the same boat there. I'm super against like black and white. Don't do free work. But that being said, I don't think you should do free work. Not because, like, for example, like someone asked me to do like put in this song that I wrote into a film for free. And like, I'm cool with doing it for free. Like I wouldn't have sold the song otherwise, but I want to charge like $50, even if it's just $50.
It's almost like the principle of it.
Yeah. It's more about like, I want you to sacrifice something for my
right. And I also want to feel like not to make it transactional, but in a way it sort of needs to kind of legitimize what this is happening in a way.
So it's more of like respect and legitimacy.
Yeah, it's back to respect again.
What am I going to do with $50? Go to McDonald's once in California?
Yeah,
I mean, go to Starbucks twice in California.
Yeah, Starbucks twice. Yeah, you could probably decently if you work at a McDonald's, but I don't know, man. That Cardi B offset meal is like $23.
Oh, that's right, the 2-person, dude. Sometimes with that McDonald's app, bro. Sometimes I come out with deals. I'm feeding 2 kids and a wife, bro, with that McDonald's.
Like a king.
$15.
There you go,
dude. Yeah, it's like that. But the thing is, like, you're not gonna get fries with that. But you know, like, I'm cool with 2 Whop and the 2 Big Macs with no fries.
So funny. Oh
You
my
know?
gosh.
But so I keep kicking over. I use this. There's a tiny trash can under this desk. I keep
was
using it as a
wondering what that
footstool, but I
was.
keep kicking it over.
Oh, okay, nice.
But yeah, dude. Tell me a recent embarrassing story that's funny. Like, tell me
Oh,
like a
God.
recent embarrassing story.
A recent
Do
embarrassing
you have any good
story.
poop stories recently?
Not recently. I do have one when I was in college, though.
Oh shoot! Do you want to go down this rabbit hole, or do you have an a different embarrassing story to tell?
I don't know if I have an embarrassing story that I can think of recently.
This is sorry. Transitioning back to what we were saying earlier, I'm not confident about knowing like my intelligence or know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I think I'm like good at this sort of shit is because I'm really confident in my ability to fuck up. Like, I'm really confident about being able to, like, I know I'm going to make mistakes, and, like, I'm really confident in my ability to make them and learn from them.
But that's super, super freeing, right? And the last part that you said...
Sorry, that was, like, super back,
But
way back.
It's that last part that you kind of snuck in, right? It's not just that you're confident that you're going to fuck up. I think anybody, any tactician understands that you're going to make mistakes. It's you're confident in your ability to learn from the mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the difference I see, honestly, from professionals and amateurs, too.
Go into this.
Professionals make mistakes all the time. I think if anything, you probably are making more mistakes than not, but it's what you're learning from those mistakes to then to own different skills from it. But yeah, I mean I relate a lot to that too. I think
like I literally sometimes like say out loud, I'm a professional mistake maker.
Sure.
I'm a professional fuck up.
Right.
Like I literally get paid from the mistakes that I make.
Right. But you wouldn't be who you were now, and you wouldn't know what
it's
you
great.
without those mistakes too.
If the metaphorically I've burnt my hand on the stove so much that like they're more like nubs, but like dude, I have great nubs, like metaphorical nubs, bro.
Oh my god.
Like no fingerprints anymore.
Right.
Metaphorically speaking. But
So funny.
Dude, yeah, I'm really good at burning my hands on the stove. And I do it, like, I'll do things that are stupid knowing that they're stupid because I want to feel the burn. Like, because I feel like I won't properly learn the principle behind why people say that shit or, like, why people say things until I do it.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And I do relate a lot to that, too, in my own practice. Like, I have a sort of a freedom about it because I know it's going to suck at the beginning. And then because I've experienced the process of building something from shit to gold, I feel weird even saying that, but from something that's not good to good, right? At the very least. And seeing that along that process, it's not just a clear path, right? You're gonna have ups and lows and you're gonna make mistakes that maybe set you all the way back to the beginning. But as long as you have the tenacity to like see it through, you will get to the end result in some capacity. And I think that's the freedom I have whenever I'm working on something. I might get overwhelmed and be like, oh my God, I'm definitely not doing this today. But it's like the next day it's a little bit easier. The third day it's like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. And then by the end of the week, I've got it in my hands, you know?
Yeah.
And then I've unlocked some new skill for the next time that kind of thing happens.
And I think that goes back to like what you're saying right now goes back to why I tell my son, boys don't cry, which by the way, I only say that when to clarify, I only say that when
he's trying to
as a way to
you.
as a way to simplify what I mean. Like I don't really mean boys don't cry.
You're just trying
what
to
I mean
not
is like in this,
the manipulation aspect of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want him to have like a sense of like pride in his manlyhood. That's kind of like a James Clear use of identity kind of thing.
Totally.
Like I want him to feel manly as like a form of like he has pride in his manliness.
Yeah.
And so like he's gonna choose to face up to it. But anyway, but when he like cries because he's sad, like I'll let him talk about it.
Totally.
And I won't say that to him when he's sad, right?
And that's beautiful to
like,
encourage that, yeah.
But going back to the reason why I talk about that is because this is so interesting. Like, no matter whether or not my son cries or not, he's gonna have to deal with this.
Right.
And if you cry, like, and it's so easy to see it in his situation because his problems are so small, so small. So you can kind of see it in that perspective. And you're like, oh my gosh, like literally, if you just didn't cry and ate this food like mom is asking, like it'd be so much easier.
And you get what you want.
You get what you want.
Yeah.
Like you can have ice cream afterwards, like we promised you. But it's the fact that you're crying and refusing to eat this last bite. You're gonna do it regardless or not anyway, because we're all gonna be eating ice cream.
Right.
You know, and you're gonna want to eat it. and you're gonna have to go back. Now you're gonna have to eat food that's cold.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's less delicious.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like you're gonna have to deal with it either way. Why not just deal with it now? And why are you adding an extra step? And I think that's like, and I'm trying to tie that to a sense of pride that I'm hoping to develop in him, like a good pride.
Right.
Right.
No, that's awesome though. I think that's important too. Like, I think a lot of parents are trying to maybe stifle that pride in your gender, and it feels like in this treading into some tricky territory, I think a little bit, but. That said, I think it's undeniably true that men and female are very different. And there are some aspects of life that have to be handled a little bit differently. And I think having pride in being able to feel strong as a man or as a woman, I think is a huge part of empowerment. And I think that like you trying to impart that into your children is really powerful.
I want to dive deeper into this tricky territory.
Yeah.
And I love the word different because it doesn't infer even the idea of better.
Right.
So here's the thing. Let's say that, have you ever read the book Flowers for Algernon?
I have not.
Great book. It's about a dude that is retarded and mentally retarded, and he gets neural surgery, gets some chemicals implanted in his brain. He becomes one of the smartest men in the entire world.
Whoa.
And the book is about, it's like his journal. So you can see how he's writing really bad grammar and spelling. And then it gets really good, really intelligent. And then at the very, very end of the book, he loses it all again. Go back to his original state. The reason, and it's a science fiction book, it's obviously not real.
Sure.
But it kind of dives into the philosophical idea of like, is intelligence directly tied to happiness in some way or another? And so like being smart is like we perceive it as something that's better. But in the book, it was the worst thing that could have ever happened to him.
Right.
And it was an incredibly sad book.
And this is like what you're talking about too. It's like I feel very smart, but it's also because I'm very dumb, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's like I'm aware of so many of my the gaps in my knowledge, or that I have so much to learn, kind of a thing. That makes you smarter in some ways, right? Because we're dumb.
Yeah. So the splashes of ideas that I'm trying to connect together now is the idea of intelligence being tied with happiness, and also the idea that what we perceive as better is not always better.
It's not always
being
better.
Smarter may seem better, but that was actually like not like it can be. It's all based on perspective. So like the fact that like men and women are different shouldn't upset anybody, because women are statistically smarter than men in a lot of different like researchable, like executable data, like in a data.
For sure.
Yeah. Like,
on paper, there are
in a lot of different
many things that women do just statistically better than men.
Yeah, and men have more muscle structure.
Sure.
But at the expense of, we're really not flexible, you know? Like we can't, we're really not, you know, oh shoot, the camera has been sliding down slowly, but yeah, so it's just like what's better and what's not. And I think that going back to the idea of another splash idea that I'm trying to tie together as well is, where does gratitude come from? And gratitude really does not come from unhealthy places.
Sure.
So it's like people that are cutting me off in the street, or like whatever, like being really rude, like what we've always heard that it's mostly a reflection of what's going on with their problems. But you got to understand, like, I feel like that's more true than ever to me recently, because as I'm working on being super honest and open with people, I'm recognizing a lot of these people have not dealt with their shit, dealt with their trauma. And it's like not only hurting them, but it's hurting people around them. And so it's like going back to the idea, like, society's a bitch, man.
Right.
And like, if you don't deal with that shit, someone's gonna, I don't really want to share this sort of stuff, but like, I've cut off all ties with my father completely. And there's a lot of stuff going on, not just with me, but with my family and my wife as well. And that really sucks. Like watching that. Remember at the end of the movie when she's like, you suck too, but I don't know why, but I still want to be here with you.
Right. She like negged her before she
when that happened, it's like, yeah, my dad at the end of the day, no matter how much of a dick I am to him or vice versa, like he wants me there.
Right.
But he lost that privilege. Right. And like, there was like a little bit of that going through my mind now. And like, it sucks because I want him to be there. Like as a man, a kid needs his father. And I'm like, every adult is like But it's really unfortunate that happened. But
on some level, I'm sure you'd want him to be a part of your
but he's got to figure it out.
But that's not your job. That's for him to figure.
He's got to figure that shit out. So if he was dead serious, like if he came to me right now and said, "Hey DK, like I want to see you and the family again," like if I decide to respond, which I probably wouldn't, not probably for a while. And it's been like many years since we've even last spoke.
Do you honestly think that would ever happen?
I hope that it would, but what it would come down to is like he has to agree to take therapy and fix himself.
Yeah.
And I'm not like it goes back to like the idea of like he has to fix himself, but it's not for me to like, or it goes back to the idea like I'm trying to teach him a lesson. It's not for that. It's because in order for us to work together, like it's not healthy for me and my wife and my children to see you in this state.
Sure.
So you got to figure your shit out. And the thing is like, he's getting old, dude. And so like his neuroplasticity of like being able to recognize and become aware and to change that is his time's running out. In fact, if I could guess, like just the part of the reason why we left is because I think time has already run out.
Right.
And I'm not going to judge that and say like, this is how it is. But what I am saying that like, if he's got to make a change, he's got to make it sooner than later.
For sure.
Or else he's going to become like your mom and watch that movie and not get anything out of it.
Oh man!
But I'm sure that your mom is a much better parent than my dad was. So
my mom was a great parent. Both my parents were awesome. Had a very lovely childhood.
Dude, my dad was a super cool guy. This is the big complex I have.
Yeah.
He was like a really cool dude, really good person,
but just toxic.
Just like really narcissistic father.
Yeah.
And it was just really unfortunate because there's lots of really great memories I have with him.
That's good though that you still have positive memories.
Really positive,
not all
awesome.
negative.
Yeah. And then there's like really shitty ones.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
But it wasn't like all bad, which also makes it even harder.
Yeah, I bet, right? Because you know what it could have been, how good it could be, and everything.
So going back to your embarrassing story. Sorry, going back to the topic.
Okay.
Did you
I
think
was
of
playing in a wedding band in college, and
cover
it was a cover band, a wedding band, or in the East Coast they call it GB, general business. They kind of call it different things depending where you are and regionally, but that doesn't matter. So we had a regular gig in Rhode Island every Thursday night, I believe.
What is Rhode Island? That's a state?
It's a very, very small state with like one entrance in and the same way you get out of it.
Is it really?
Pretty much, yeah. There's like two highways that go through it. I don't quote me on that, but I remember there only being two ways to get
It's very small,
It's a very small state.
It's not a joke. It's a real place.
It's not a joke. Very real place. I was living in Boston, went to school in Boston, and I was part of a 7-piece wedding band or GB band. And we would play this club partially to basically have a paid rehearsal, right? Instead of booking a rehearsal, we'd be like, all right, we have 4 hours. Like, these are the 6 tunes we need to know for these weddings that are coming up. Learn them and we'll run them at the gig. And we each walk away with a couple $100. It's like a paid rehearsal, basically, which in college was like a very novel thing, right? Now it's like I'm probably not showing up to rehearsal unless you're paying kind of a thing now. But then, so we had this residency there. So we would play every Thursday night. And these are long sets. We would start, probably 10 p.m. and end at 2 a.m. And
I was in a wedding band. I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious. I love it. And then we would drive, but hour and a half, 2 hours home. So I'm not getting home usually until like 3, 4 a.m. Sometimes I'm having to drop people off along the way. So I was very often getting home after 4 a.m. Sometimes having to go to class at 9 a.m. the next day.
Oh, that's right, because it's a Thursday night.
Yeah. So I had eaten, I forgot what I had eaten. It was probably the chicken cordon bleu because that was the meal that I got every night, every time there.
Chicken cordon bleu.
It was like the sandwich, bro. It was like that and ginger ale. That was the sugar babies meal.
Oh, that's two dangerous combinations. I know. I can say. I love where this is going.
And so, okay, so we finish. I can already feel some bubbles happening, but I'm like, I can make it. I can power through this. I can make it home,
no.
Right? So
the confidence is terrifying.
Yeah, I get about halfway, and this is also part of the drive. There's a stretch of the drive where there's like 40 minutes with no gas station or anything. It's that type of a road. So it becomes pretty clear to me 20 minutes into the drive that it's like I'm gonna need to stop. So I'm kind of keeping an eye out. I'm like, I know in the next 20 minutes or 20 miles, there's a gas station. Like there's the one big gas station. And so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to play it off like I just got to pee really badly. And, you know, it's like, I had the shame of like, I don't want them to think I'm like about to just have a crazy like, explosive diarrhea thing. But that failed ultimately. So I go in, you know, I'm like, I'll be back really short. And they're like, all right, cool, whatever. You know, they're chilling, but they're also ready to go home and go to sleep. So I go in, there's someone in the bathroom. So I'm pacing outside waiting, right?
Oh no.
Like kind of clamping.
Oh.
Yeah, like really unfortunate. But it's coming out at this point. And so they come out, I just dash in. I don't even look. I just pants down and do my thing. You know, probably a minute or two later, I'm like feeling a wave of calm. You know, I'm like, okay, cool. Like past this crazy storm of what's happened. And then I'm also like, okay, cool. I also am in a window where everything could be cool. Like that can get out of there. And they just be like, I just tell them I had to wait. Right. And then I look over and there's no toilet paper. And so I'm just like, shit, what do I do? Do I just like pull it up and just like, you know, go to the front and maybe ask or like, I was like, no, I didn't have enough. I didn't have, because he saw me go in there.
What did you do? How did you deal with this?
So I used the sink.
You used the sink.
Yeah.
You just wiped your bum.
I wiped my bum and then
Was it a private single bathroom?
Single bathroom.
Oh,
that was
okay,
the only way it could have worked.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's why it was locked.
I was
right?
like,
Only one
imagine
person.
you like wobbling,
like butt in the sink and someone comes in. Yeah,
hobbling over to the.
Oh my gosh! And so yeah, and then there were no paper towels too, so I literally had to like
just air dry
my butt. Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, but they knew by the time I got back. The car was like 15 minutes later.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and they're just like laughing, and I told them the story, and they just would never let me live that down.
Oh, dude, I imagine like you said, you described. You didn't look before you sat down, so I thought that you had shit on top of a clogged toilet.
Oh, that would have been awful too.
I was like, that's where my mind went.
I have another embarrassing wedding band story now that we're talking about. Oh,
really?
This. Yeah, this one was a wedding. And so the band leader decided to stop. We would also do these like Thursday, Friday. So when we're like working, we would, you know, in the peak of this band, we like 2014 not.com best band in New England. So we were working. So we would do clubs Thursday, Friday, and then weddings Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes weddings Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come back to Boston. Sometimes we
were popping.
We go all over. Yeah.
I mean, you're a fantastic keys player, so you're thanks, probably man. Like.
It was a fun gig. I say I learned more about performance playing in a wedding band than doing the
after this story. I
Berkeley.
need some ideas of how to perform behind keyboards where your fingers, the precision of your fingers have to be there,
and you're stationary.
But you're stationary. But how do you perform with that? Anyway, finish your story.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this was the end of a run. Like this was going into a Sunday, and we had a wedding somewhere in New England. It wasn't in Boston, but it was like, you know, outside for sure in the East Coast. And we had just got up from our hotels, and he's like, I'm going to stop at Taco Bell. And me and the saxophonist, Robert.
That's always a great decision.
Especially right before a wedding where I was playing both the ceremony, the cocktail hour, and the reception.
Oh, you're doing like solo jazz.
Sometimes, like, so I was doing classical for the ceremony, like duo, me and the saxophonist, which is even funnier too, because he's a very important part of the story. And then the full band would do the reception. So normally it's just cocktail reception, and they would have like a quartet or something, but we offered that ability to do that. So this was one of those weddings. We go to Taco Bell, and our band leader says, I'll pay for your meal if you can eat 20 tacos. And me and Robert look at each other and we're like, all right, let's do it. And so we each got 20 tacos. I got 20 hard shell, 20 soft. And I will say the soft was the mistake for sure. I ate all 20. I did. Did not feel great. He made it like 16, 18. He definitely didn't do all 20. So I remember my meal was free. I'm feeling like, you know, like super happy. I'm just like, I just ate 20 tacos. I feel awesome. And we're, you know, driving to the venue. I'm like,
that natural competitiveness just came out.
It just came out. Yeah. And I'm also kind of aware that like there's a countdown. Like there's some sort of like my body's not going to just take this. Like, I think, you know,
My body's not gonna take
it's not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
But by some miracle, I make it through the ceremony. You know, we get to the venue, we change into our clothes, I get set up, I make it through the ceremony. And then as I'm going into the cocktail hour, I realized that I'm not going to make it through this cocktail hour. So I subbed in the guitar. So I was like, Tony, you got to come in and do the guitar. So they did a guitar and saxophone. Robert somehow made it through. He probably dealt with it when I was doing the ceremony, to be honest. So he was fine. But yeah, that I managed to make that through very well, but I was mortified. I don't think anyone knew, but that was embarrassing for me.
Yeah, that's like, it's like an internal embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm low-key still proud I ate 20 tacos.
Dude, I have a story. Can I share a story about do you know what Tim Tams are? You
Yeah.
were in Australia.
They gave me Tim Tams on the flight back.
Okay, you know what Tim Tam Slam is? I don't know
No.
if this is like a Japanese thing or like an Australian thing. You get hot chocolate, right?
Okay.
Hot chocolate, and you bite off both ends of the Tim Tam biscuit. And you suck the hot chocolate through the Tim Tam like a straw, and
Okay.
it melts the chocolate inside the Tim Tam. And then after it melts everything, you suck the entire Tim Tam. So now you just had like extra chocolatey Tim Tam, and that's a Tim Tam Slam.
Sounds kind of fire, dude.
It's delicious, bro. Tim Tams come in pack of 10.
Okay.
Or 11, unless you get the special kind. They're the different flavors, they come in packs of 9. So it's like the same price, but you get less. That's how they do the price differences for the various different variations.
Okay.
Anyway, I was in a managerial meeting, and one of my people that I was in charge of was we were just like fucking around, you know, just talking, and he's like, hey, this week my celebration is I ate and slammed 26 Tim Tams. And I don't know if you like, well, you got to try this Tim Tam Slam thing.
Yeah.
You have
I
2
do.
and you're like done.
Yeah. No,
Like you're
they're
2
pretty
and
rich.
They're really
Yeah.
rich, and then on top of that,
You're drinking hot chocolate. Yeah.
That's like milk based, right?
I mean,
So-
26. I'm also thinking from the view, as I mentioned before, I'm counting calories. I'm just like, that's like my total calories for the day. Like,
Yo, so like I remember, and I like that competitive alpha dog came
Yeah.
out, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna beat that. And so what I did is that weekend I bought 3 packs, so 33
30.
Tim Tams.
Okay, 33. Oh, yeah, that's right. 11.
I ate and slammed 25 Tim Tams.
Oh, my God.
I went to the bathroom, threw it up, and then finished the rest of the 33 Tim Tams.
Oh, my God.
And then
Yeah.
he like fought over the definition of, you know.
It's like, you got to hold it down.
Because, yeah, you got to hold it down. You can't throw it up. That's cheating. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dog, I slammed 33 Tim Tams. This is like my friend that we did like do you know
hilarious.
the gallon challenge?
Yeah.
I did the gallon challenge at least like 5 times when I was in high school.
Wow.
So like 3 times where I threw up due to too much.
I was going to
just
say, that's
lack.
like 4 times too many to do.
Yeah,
the gallon.
I did it 4 times too many times. And I remember one of my buddies one time. He's like, he's stupid, okay, and he's like, I like strawberry, and I don't really like milk, so why don't I get strawberry milk?
Oh
It'll
my
make it better.
God.
And he had Nesquik strawberry milk. He was drinking it, and I remember him when you throw up milk, dog, from the gallon challenge. You're like, not only are you fucking bloated, but it's gross. So you want to throw up.
It's all like
Bro,
mucusy and yeah.
threw up greenish, reddish, pinkish milk that was like partially already fermented from the stomach acid.
my
You know,
God.
just threw it up and then he kept drinking.
Oh, my. Savage.
It's
Savage.
just like, damn, that was probably one of the most manly things I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
low-key, I got to respect it a
like
little
that,
bit.
like he grew a few chest hairs from that.
Right, just from that day alone. Yeah. Wow, that's so funny, man.
Yeah, shit like that, bro. Oh, do you know the icy hot challenge? I did that when I was a kid too.
Refresh me on the icy hot.
So you put icy hot on your balls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This same friend that drank, like it's so painful that like it's not funny.
Right.
Like it's like
sounds very
genuinely just
uncomfortable.
like no, uncomfortable. It's painful. It hurts.
I used to put icy hot on my knees because I had like Osgood Slatter's syndrome, like basically just like I was really tall and it just my knees just were not meant for running, and I was a midfielder in soccer and basically the most running. But yeah, I would just have to like put icy hot on my knees, and that gave good relief. So I
dude,
I
yeah,
can only
on the most
imagine
sensitive part of your stretchiest skin. Anyway, dude,
That sounds like it would suck.
it's not funny. it's just like there's like a moment like as it's getting hot or cold or whatever, just burning, like it's starting to burn. It's like ha ha ha, and then like after like 30 seconons, you're like, oh. Fuck. Like that's like it's
Just
not funny anymore.
Immediately regretting
like,
your life decisions.
Have you seen like you watch the hot ones?
Yeah.
Where like there's some guests where it's like so hot where it's just like it's like not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's like that.
They get really serious.
They're like there's like a couple guests on that show where like they lost their accents.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's like they couldn't keep up the facade, which is why I love that interview show. Anyway, it's like that. It's just like it's so painful. It's like what's going on. The same guy that drank. His name is Trenton, by the way, one of my best friends.
Legend.
And Trenton, this goes out to you if you ever listen to this episode. Anyway, Trent, what he did is he not only did it, but he like held on for 30 minutes straight.
So what are you supposed to do to like
I don't know. I don't know if there's most people can't handle it. I don't know. You just go in the bath and
just
like
scrub.
I guess.
I feel like that would make it worse though.
I don't know, dude. I don't know, but I remember this dude doing it for like 30 minutes, and then after 30 minutes, I guess you go numb, or it's like it stops the effect, and like he just kept it on for an hour. And I remember like the same guy that drank that gallon of strawberry milk is now toughing out the icy hot challenge. I was like, damn.
What's he?
But the difference is like I can have kids. You know?
Yeah, yeah. That was the day he lost the ability to have kids. So yeah.
Well, we don't know yet if he can. He hasn't tried yet, but
that's funny.
I know for a fact I can have kids. Yo, Kayako is a fertile myrtle, dude.
Oh my God. Fertile.
We won't
myrtle.
even get into that.
That's hilarious, bro.
But anyway, that's a good storytelling. Tell us some tips for young keyboard players that are trying to gig.
Performing
behind keys, man. What's some tips?
Yeah, so I mean,
is it the hips, bro? Is it all in the hips?
It's funny. I didn't stand up behind a keyboard until like maybe mid-college. I was probably 19, 20. The first time I remember the moment. I was playing in a rock band, and I was kind of coming from this classical jazz mentality where I'm seated. I'm always seated.
That's fine.
Seated, yeah. And I was playing in this band, and we kind of had this unique opportunity to have a master class with this sort of performance coach. And he, famously worked with Taylor Swift back in the day, and a bunch of like other,
cool.
a lot of what he worked with are like worship bands or, local bands to help them to kind of just visually to help their
oh really? He's like, literally like a stage choreographer.
Literally what his job was. And
oh, that is such a cool job. So he's not like a choreographer. He just makes sure that you don't look like bacon.
He was the person to me that imparted the idea of creating moments in a show. And that idea has always stuck with me as a musical director and as a keyboardist too. Like you want to create memorable things throughout the performance, right? Whether
like
it's
show your ass,
exactly, right? Like moon the crowd, or like like having the guitar solo. But it could even be simple things, right? Like the guitarist stepping forward during their solo, right? Or like having a very specific moment where you tell a heartfelt story to set up a song.
No, there's definitely like I've seen a lot of bands where like specific members of the bands just have no showmanship.
Right.
It's just not natural. Luckily, I was blessed to have like stupid good showmanship.
I think,
but like,
I'm part of that's like not taking yourself too seriously. I think, and I think that's honestly something I've learned. I used to.
You were very serious.
I was very stiff, and I was coming from a classical and jazz tradition, right? So it's kind of a stuffy tradition. I love that music, but like that whole crowd has a lot of elitism and a lot of like unwillingness to be open to evolving past a certain decade.
Are you talking about classical?
I'm talking about both classical and jazz. Just sort of the attitude that overwhelmingly kind of prevails in those camps. Obviously, there's exceptions to those rules, and there's people furthering those traditions. But I mean, it's sad that they're not a popular form of music right now, and not very common.
I'm thinking jazz has started, at least in my personal life. Jazz and things similar to jazz is kind of taking a big hold in my life right now.
I love that.
It's becoming a bigger deal.
That's cool.
And I'm hoping that with the slow decline of trap specifically that we're starting to see, not rap, but trap.
Trap specifically.
Low effort trap.
Right.
Is I'm hoping that with that there's like like Brain Feeder, bro.
Trap
like,
is kind of becoming more of a novelty where it's like, oh, you have the trap
like it's fun to
breakdown
get but it's like punk music. It's like like there's a time and place for like non-technical punk music, just rage and angst
and just pure like emotion.
Yeah, trap is just punk music to me, you know.
Okay,
like it's like we all need it, but it's like it's not
the end all.
Yeah, it's not like,
or there's not too much substance to it if that's the only form of art.
Like, it's very juvenile.
Yeah, totally. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, if that's your only, there's not much depth to you as a listener if that's the only thing you're.
But I mean, you listen to these artists from like, is it Flying Lotus? His label Brain Feeder, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's Lewis Cole and Thundercat.
Right.
Like it's like Lewis Cole is not a jazz guy.
But in a way, I get what you're saying. They are sort of
depth.
The newest generation that is closest to continuing the tradition of
Clowncore. I don't know if they're part of Brain Feeder. I don't think they are. Do you know Clowncore?
I don't.
We're gonna have a blast after this podcast.
I'm excited.
Clowncore is fantastic.
I can't wait.
It is terrifying and
it sounds kind of terrifying. It's something I can't show my wife, who's terrified.
No, you're for real?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's gonna terrify her. But
so I remember we were in this masterclass, right? And this guy, he points to me, and he just points and he says, "Arise!" and I was like, okay. And so I like sheepishly stand up, and he's like, "From now on, you perform standing up."
You're getting the priesthood, dog.
Oh,
arise.
100%. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And then like, we played the song and I was like, oh yeah, I actually have more mobility now. I can kind of rock out a little bit. Even though I'm still stationed, I'm still kind of boxed in. It really, and then visually it like, I saw photos and video afterwards and I was like, oh yeah, I look way cooler too. Like, and then I also started playing more gigs and then just started just by default standing. There's parts that suck about standing too. I actually, when I moved to LA, I played in a rock band, a trio where I played bass, split my keyboard so that went to a bass amp through bass pedals to be believable as a bass sound. And then the top half went to a keyboard amp or like a PA system that would do organ and other piano sounds. But I sat when I played with that group. And the reason for it is because I had a lot of pedal stuff to do and it was really difficult for me to like hold a sustain pedal and also do a volume pedal while standing.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just
trying to imagine you like balancing on basically two fulcrums.
Yeah, like tiptoeing.
Just two fulcrums, like just on.
It's rough. Even now, I have to make compromises with what I'm doing with my feet when I'm performing standing. But visually, I understand it looks so much better standing. And it's easier to perform. But I'm also someone who's very much so. I think most performers they like to feed off of the audience's energy, right? So if you're not getting much from the audience, it's hard to perform, right? It's hard to sort of get into that. That said, I'm a professional and I'm able to perform whether there's 5 people in the audience or 50,000 people in the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm able to put on what I would want to see as a show. And part of that is I want to see the people on stage having fun, even if it's fake, right? Even if they're just like rocking out on stage and
I mean, you've had the experience of playing to like 5-10 people, and you've also had the experience of playing to tens of thousands. Have you played to 100,000 or more yet?
I haven't played to 100,000.
But like, what's your biggest crowd? Like 80,000? Like close to 100,000? Like Head in the Clouds.
That was probably like 20,000-30,000 realistically.
Still, that's crazy. 20,000 is like the entire marathon. The LA marathon.
That's probably closest to the biggest audiences I played.
So many people.
I did, the wedding band I played with did the Christmas tree lighting in Boston, and that was probably 80,000 people, plus like not including the people watching on TV too.
That's so crazy.
That was crazy, yeah.
How was playing in something like Head in the Clouds? Like,
I
where it's
love
like
it.
there's like physical distance between the stage because it's such a big thing, right?
There's pros and cons. I love it because, you know, obviously you look out and you see this massive people, right? And you can, and especially when it's nighttime and they're, you know, I used to feel sort of a way about like, oh, you know, it's Grandpa Jonah, like they're on their phones. Oh, you know, everyone's on their phone. Everyone is on their phones now. When I grew up going to concerts, like, you didn't see that. And like when the song was down, people would pull out their lighters, right? That's not a thing now. But have found an appreciation for on like the slower songs, like when people pull out their flashlights and seeing the sea of like lights. It's a very powerful thing, right?
Oh yeah.
That said, it's way more disconnecting playing to an audience like that than playing in a club or a theater, where you can see the back of the room. And there still might be 1,000 people or 5,000 people in that room, or even a club where there's just a couple hundred people. I like things about all of that, but I think that there's an intimacy and a direct energy that I can directly feel from an audience in a smaller, like I'm playing at the Roxy next week with an artist, and that's a great venue because it's big. It's got a great sound system. It can fit 1,500 people in there, but it's also feels like a nightclub. It feels intimate, and I can see the people feet away from me rather than like 100 feet away in a big barrier and then a security guards kind of a thing. So to me, who's a little bit sensitive in that regard to energies, I really do enjoy different things about playing smaller rooms than the big stage. Obviously, there's pros to playing big stages too. It's a massive stage, and like those types of shows often have way more stage production. So they'll have video walls, and they'll have pyrotechnics and crazy lights and smoke, and I
can't imagine the adrenaline that comes when you're playing a hyped song and fire comes out of the ground, dude.
It's pretty intense, bro.
Like that's just exciting to just think about.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Have you ever crowd surfed before?
In high school, yeah.
In high school,
I did. Yeah, I definitely was like kind of aligned with the punk rock kind of lifestyle aesthetic for a big part of my high school.
I mean, even now you only wear black. I think it kind of shows.
That's true. That's sort of the musician's uniform too, though. Like it's just like when in doubt, wear black. It's kind of the most neutral thing. You're not gonna offend someone with logos. Except,
dude, at the Grammys, bro, it's the funniest thing. The Grammys is a black tie event, but like, who's wearing black ties? Like, I mean, like in the sense that like nobody's wearing a tux, dog.
Everybody's
like,
trying to
Harry
show out.
Styles shows up in a jumpsuit,
or
dude.
like a dress or something. Yeah.
Like what? I thought this was black tie. Like, oh man, it's like at certain points, like we understand you're creative, but like, and you want to stand out, but
it's a little bit of a kind of a look
at
me.
the Oscars, they're all wearing suits. They're all wearing tuxedos.
Right. That's interesting. So
like it's like how much should the Grammys like force people to actually dress appropriately for the sake of like the PR of the Grammys? Like if people want to take the Grammys more seriously, should they dress the part?
That's an interesting thing. I don't know how much like leeway they get. A lot of the artists are just going to do whatever they want if they're at that level.
The last Grammys that my wife and I went to, there was like someone that wore like a blinking LED rainbow flag.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
What is it called? Superman has a cape.
Cape, yeah.
Yeah. It's a cape, but it's like blinking LEDs. And like you'd think when they're sitting in the crowd, they'd turn it off.
Oh, it was on.
It was
the whole
on
time?
the entire
That's so
time.
distracting.
The entire time.
That's crazy.
And I could see them from all the way across.
Was it a celebrity or was it just
no? They were like in the medium seats. They weren't in the cheap seats. They were in the medium seats.
That's really funny.
And it was just like funny. I remember thinking like wow, like you're that desperate for attention. Like that's also weird for me to think about. However, we won't get into it this time. But
I mean, we are in the city of people desperate for attention.
That's crazy, and I love how democratized attention is nowadays. I talk about that often on the podcast, where it's like there's never been a time ever in the history of mankind in any society ever that attention has been this democratized.
Right, and monetized.
Oh, monetized! Oh, nice. Capitalism.
Yeah.
No, but no, for real though, it's
You're
like
totally
such a
right.
good thing.
Yeah.
Which makes me go into, did you hear about Spotify doing the 30% cuts for discoverability mode? You heard about this?
No, tell me.
So Spotify just released that they're going to do like more features. They're going to do like a big makeover on the app, and they're going to make discoverability a big thing. So like, you know how like when you do like playlists, there's like, now they have an option to do like magic shuffle, where it's like other songs that are not in your playlist that sound similar to it, or like statistically data wise, you're probably going to like this. They'll like add songs that you've never heard before, which is great for artists because then you get discovered.
Right.
So what they're
Especially
gonna
now
do-
because playlists have kind of become like just it's kind of now like you have to know people to get on it.
yeah,
It's like
exactly.
very hard to break through as a completely independent artist.
Yeah, so because of that, and discoverability is a big thing. I mean, that's why YouTube
Yeah.
is so good, is because a big
The
part of that,
recommended videos.
being recommended.
And their algorithm's pretty good. Like if I
It's
watch
slow, but it's
one
great.
video about like I've started watching this Australian magician. It's hilarious. But like because I subscribed to him and tapped on his video, immediately my feed got flooded with other magicians. And I'm like, I don't want to watch these other magicians. I just want to watch
but
this
it's
one
great.
dude. But it actually has led to me discovering like a bunch of other people that
The success
I
of
enjoy.
my podcast is 100% based on algorithm.
Sure.
Like, it's not because I'm really good. I have a lot of friends and I'm really good at reminding them to listen to the podcast. It's because Spotify and Apple Podcasts continues to recommend, like, and the name of my show, Mixing Music, is like, that was on purpose because that's like a hot keyword search.
Totally.
So that's very SEO centric. So it's like algorithms are incredibly important and very vital. And so there's a lot of like Twitter debate, low IQ Twitter debate of like ungrateful artists that are like, this is whatever it is, taking advantage of the small artists, taking away our small measly numbers already, and then forcing us to pay 30% for extra discoverability. And it's like,
so that's what it is.
That's crazy.
You're paying to be able to.
So
be
they're gonna
discovered?
prioritize discoverability. They're doing some sort of like TikTok thing where like there's a carousel that you can scroll through and listen to other songs.
But you
like
have
that.
to actually pay.
You have to
to
give
be
up
eligible.
30% of your royalties in order to become, as an independent artist, become part of the discoverability. And here's the thing, like, it sucks that they
Yeah.
take your money.
That's
but
not
the thing
ideal.
is, it's not ideal, but at the same time, you can just like not post on Spotify. Let's start there.
Yeah, right.
You can just like boycott Spotify.
Sure.
But obviously ain't no artist that's going to do that because there's some benefit. Like, it's kind of like complaining at YouTube, like, YouTube, you're taking ad revenue. First off, you know how much effort it takes for a company to find companies to want to run ads on your bullshit content?
Sure.
So it's like the fact that they automated it and made it simple for both companies and content creators is like, yeah, you should take a fuck ton of ad revenue from that.
For sure.
YouTube.
For sure.
You know,
I think I would feel less of a way about this if Spotify wasn't already notorious for paying out so little in royalties based off of streams.
so then just post your music on Bandcamp.
No, I agree, and I'm not saying
that's my argument.
I'm
The
not.
argument
I'm
always
not
comes
in the
back to, like-
camp of to not put your music on Spotify, especially if you're an unknown musician. If you're established, then you don't need Spotify. You know what I mean? Like if you've got fans who will buy your album, then you don't need Spotify to stream it. It is a convenience thing, and I think that's why you see a lot of artists who did boycott it actually kind of walk it back and then eventually release their catalog on Spotify. But yeah, Spotify is not a perfect company. I don't think there is such a thing, but
Also, did you know, this is crazy, I'm going to throw a statistic on you.
hit me.
In 2021, 78%, no, sorry. Almost, oh man, I forgot now. I actually have it in my downloads, but I did a whole episode about it. Close to 70% of all gross revenue made in the entire recorded music industry came from streaming services. So
That's actually-
so the
Got
company
you.
that
Yeah.
puts out
that certifies.
certifies
Yeah.
records. And so it's crazy